Hey everyone, welcome back to Political X. For more knowledge and updates on UK, European and US politics, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I recently found some really interesting footage of Lord Frost being grilled in Northern Ireland over Brexit, his role in Brexit, his role in the protocol, his fingerprints all over the protocol. And the reason I'm showing you this is because, ironically, in this speech that you're looking at right now, Boris Johnson moaned about unelected bureaucrats being in charge in Europe. And of course, one of the first things he does is hire unelected bureaucrats to come in and work with the government. We did not elect Lord Frost. He is not even a Brexiteer, interestingly enough. Now, he's come out yesterday, so that's October 9th, saying he doesn't like to do negotiations by Twitter, but he's losing his tether with the EU and the protocol involving Northern Ireland. The history and the difficulties of Ireland are based on the fact that the island was split between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And it was split by the British, who had invaded, taken over the island, and were eventually repulsed and retained only in the northern sector, Northern Ireland. Unfortunately, troubles brewed in Northern Ireland over the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And in the end, it was resolved through a thing called the Good Friday Agreement. The resolution came through being in the EU, having similar regulations, therefore the borders could be taken down. And without the borders, everything started to calm down. Obviously, there were other things involved within the Good Friday Agreement that helped with that. However, the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland was a huge symbol of negative feeling towards the separation of the country. Now, I'm only briefly going over this. It is far more complicated than I'm saying, but I am pointing out key aspects that are important, and I would suggest to anyone to go off and research into what took place in the history of Ireland with the British, the halving of the country or the splitting of the country in two, and why we are now. Because it is complicated, but it's also an important part of our shared history between the island of Ireland and the rest of Great Britain. Now, because of Brexit, these troubles are starting to rear their head again, which is something that a lot of Brexiteers said would never happen. And it wasn't important to talk about it anyway. It was sort of ignored, which has come out from a number of Brexiteers who were working within the Leave campaign. Where we are with it today is that Britain has come out of the EU, the European Union, the single market. However, we don't want a border between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. How do we achieve that? Because if the UK, Great Britain has pulled out, and we're a third country, which means we're not connected to them other than through some trade agreements, that means borders have to go up. And the solution that was given by Boris Johnson and his team of Brexiteers was to put the border not on the island of Ireland, not between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, but in the Irish Sea, and therefore separating Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK. Northern Ireland was also given special dispensation to being part of the EU single market. That means borders have gone up, which goes against the Good Friday Agreement. You might have some people argue with that. There are unionists, people who want to be part of the UK, arguing there should be no border anywhere. Or, if there is to be a border anywhere, it should be the land border, which again would go against the Good Friday Agreement and would probably cause tensions to soar. And tensions have already been high, and we've already had rioting within Northern Ireland as a result of Brexit. Now, the border in the Irish Sea was meant to resolve this. That was the purpose of it, and it was meant to be limited in its interference with Northern Ireland. But of course, there's symbolism attached to that. It's also created an internal barrier within Great Britain. It's upset unionists, which in turn has upset Republicans within the country of Northern Ireland. And it's causing huge difficulties in terms of negotiations. This is part of the reason why Brexit has been so difficult to achieve. Now, the person who was in charge of this negotiation was David Frost, Lord Frost, who's the Brexiteer negotiator, and Boris Johnson. And there's no easy solution to this. And you are going to upset people one way or the other. And it looks like from October 9th, 2021, David Frost is having a dig and threatening to use Article 16 to somehow do something to override the borders. To what extent is very debatable. Now, there are other interesting points to this as well. Lord Frost was a Remainer. Our interest is to be part of the biggest possible market with the fewest possible barriers. The European single market gives us that. The European free trade agreements give us that. Why would we want to depart from that? Lord Frost, Chief Executive of Scotch Whisky Association, June 2016. We also have an article from May 2016 detailing this, talking about how bad it would be to leave. Now, interestingly enough, within this BBC article, we also have Liz Truss, who is now a Brexiteer, arguing against Brexit. So we've got two Remainers involved in this one article who have now switched to being Brexiteers and are determined to try and make some sort of success out of Brexit. But leaving the EU would be a leap in the dark. No one knows what's going to happen, with no guarantees at the end. And we also have what David Frost says. SWA Chief Executive David Frost said Scotch supports around 40,000 jobs in the UK, around 5 billion in value to the economy. It is vital to Scotland. However, this year of 2021, Lord Frost has completely changed his tune and he's now blaming others. He's blaming MPs from Parliament, UK Parliament. He blames them for forcing the government to negotiate a bad deal in Northern Ireland with the EU, because MPs in the UK blocked anyone from being able to have a no-deal scenario, which obviously hampers your negotiating position. But at the same time, no one wants to be put into that position. And we've already seen the damage from a hard Brexit. You can only begin to imagine what would have happened in the UK if we had gone for a no-deal scenario. He also blames Theresa May. He also blames heavy-handed EU for Brexit deal problems. It's always someone else's fault. Yet, there's something really interesting within that as well. So he's going around, he's blaming Theresa May, he's blaming MPs, he's blaming the EU. At the end of the day, he's the chief negotiator. If I'm running a business and my negotiator can't get me a good deal, I will consider firing that negotiator. Boris as well created problems, but you never hear Lord Frost talking about that. Have a listen to what Boris says.
So when you come out of the EU customs union, which is what we've done, you have to have some way of checking that goods that might attract a tariff going from the United Kingdom into Ireland pay that tariff if there is to be a tariff. The only place you can do it, if you don't do it at the border, is at the border in Northern Ireland. There will not be tariffs or checks on goods coming from GB to I that are not going on to Ireland. That's the whole point. And the great thing that's been misunderstood about this is there will not be checks. There will not be checks. I speak as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and a passionate unionist. There will not be checks on goods going from Northern Ireland to Great Britain, because we're the government of the United Kingdom and we will not institute or implement or enact such checks. And the idea that Tato crisps from Tandragee Castle are going to be, by some process, it's just nonsense. So actually, Northern Ireland has got a great deal. It's got a great deal. You keep free movement, you keep access to the single market, but you also have, as it says in the deal, unfettered access to GB. And so we can also come out and do free trade. So the only reason they gave us that deal, by the way, was because they were, at the back of their minds, they were still worried that we would come out without a deal.
And then he says this.
There would be extra checks on the island of Ireland. How and where?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the EU is going to insist on customs checks as we come out, as it is, then we will have to accept that reality, and there will have to be a system for customs checks away from the border. Now, we think that those checks can be absolutely minimal and non-intrusive and won't involve new infrastructure.
Isn't this...
So, Lord Frost has been handed this really difficult problem. He's got Boris flip-flapping, as usual. He's been tied up by May. We've also taken note of the fact that he's been moaning recently about the deal. But what did he say about the deal when it was done? Well, we know because he tweeted about it. I'm very pleased and proud to have led a great UK team to secure today's excellent deal with the EU. Both sides worked tirelessly, day after day, in challenging conditions to get the biggest and broadest trade deal in the world in record time. Today's agreement does more than just deliver a zero tariffs deal. It also restores Britain's sovereignty in full. Our country begins a new journey as a fully independent country, once again on the 1st of January. Our future and prosperity are in our hands. I am confident we will thrive and succeed. Wow, how bad is that? Within 9 months, he is moaning about his own deal, and in this country, very few are holding any of them to account. However, I stumbled upon, quite frankly, an excellent ripping apart of Lord Frost in Northern Ireland. Have a listen.
You were Britain's chief negotiator for Brexit. Your eyes were wide open, and your fingerprints is on every page of the protocol. And you know that the people here in the north rejected Brexit, the majority of the people.
If you have any doubt here, the voting stats, 56% wanted to remain.
And you also know that the majority of the parties here in this assembly that represents the majority of the people out there on nine separate debates here, that they rejected Brexit but support the protocol. Now, for those of us that come from the north of Ireland, from the Republican nationalist community, we believe that the next agreement that you honour in full will be your first. So there's a lot of scepticism in relation to some of the things that you're saying, particularly as the Brexit chief negotiator. And I was an MEP in the European Parliament, and we witnessed and watched behaviour. You do, yeah, you remember that. And I would ask you not to use this place in any agreement or exchange that you're having with the EU, because people here do not trust you, they do not believe you, and people here want to see the protocol implemented in full.
Yet all we seem to hear on news is complaints from the DUP, the minority party within Northern Ireland, complaining about the protocol and wanting it overturned. If you weren't following what was going on in Ireland and following some of the Irish newspapers and media outlets, you would assume that's what Northern Ireland wanted. The concern I have is if you were to, let's say, close that Irish border off, you'd have to put a border somewhere else. I'd be curious to know what other EU countries think about this. That is definitely something that I'm curious about. How much do they actually care about that border? Because the concern is if that border goes up, and there will potentially have to be a border somewhere, goods have to be checked, this will affect other trade negotiations for the EU if there is no border, because Britain is a third country. The only other alternative that I am aware of or could even think of is if the UK joined the single market, and that would cause absolute anarchy as well, because that means we are being regulated by the EU and potentially have no say in those regulations. So, thank you very much for listening. I thought that was really interesting to find that clip earlier today on what was taking place in Northern Ireland and Lord Frost being grilled. I was really surprised not to see that anywhere in the media, and it took a while to even track that down, that clip that you just saw. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you want to say thank you and you enjoyed my show, I'm happy for you to buy me a coffee. If you want to do something a little bit more substantial and a little bit more regular, please become a patron of the show. We already have our first, which is Frank Smith, so thank you, Frank. And of course, we have other videos as well, including the Boris quiz, if you want to go and check that out. I hope you enjoyed my political observations this week. If you'd like to support me, please share the video with others and post about it on social media. If you're keen for more, subscribe, comment, like, and hit that notification button. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on Political X.